Hello, everyone. This is Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired Show. And today, my guest is Sarah Thomas. Sarah is a healer, teacher, gridworker, and also she identifies herself as a crystal. For many years, she weaved acupuncture and stone medicine in order to create treatments with stones that heal, awaken, and change lives. As a mystic, she stayed focused on the heart, protecting and nurturing the intuitive process. The stones have opened her eyes to the consciousness of land, sacred sites, power spots, earth angels, and the relationships between them all. Her mission is to share everything she learned about the power of creating ceremony, sound, and connective grids so we can help our earth awaken together. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Oh, I've been looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
And you also own a crystal shop in Northern Carolina, North Carolina, sorry.
Yeah, after teaching for so long and having students constantly saying, "Oh my God, you made me so excited about that crystal, but where do I get it?" And then me saying, "I don't know." I changed that so that I would have a place for my students to really buy crystals that are not heat treated, dyed, irradiated, like really good healing crystals.
Yes, and past last week, in fact, on Friday, you had something unique, like online sale on Instagram. How did that go?
It went great. We were working with a certain mineral that is coming out of the US. And so we had a live sale just selling that mineral that was these specimens that include calcite, barite, sphalerite, and purple fluorite.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I participated. I mean, I watched the online sale for a while, and the crystals were quite beautiful.
Oh, they're stunning. They're exquisite.
Yes. So let's start our discussion by asking you about how did you get into this business? I mean, in your bio, you also mentioned that you studied Taoism and healing at the Dai Sophia Institute. So
Mhm.
is your love for crystals going beyond that learning that institute or not?
Yeah, it started long before graduate school and then continued long after graduate school and definitely continues today. I mean, I study all the time and I keep a close relationship with my teacher. And as those of you who are teachers know, you're always studying because you're getting asked the hardest, best questions. So you have to stay on top of everything. So I'm immersed in the library of knowledge around stone medicine and crystal healing. But I feel like what you'll probably also resonate with is there's just certain things that we come into this lifetime having kind of an encodement for, and then at one point it gets activated. And I feel like my experience of relationship with the stones is multidimensional. Like it's not just from this lifetime, timeline, reality, or dimension. So it feels really deeply embedded in me.
What can you tell us about the memory of crystals? We know water has memory, and crystals are, crystallized form of water or something beyond that. So, are you aware and familiar about the memory crystals hold?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned water because I feel like the two things that remember the most, that hold the most records, that have the most memory on this precious earth are water and crystals. And Chief Standing Bear of the Ogallala Sioux said, "The world is a library and its books are the stones." And they keep the records for us. In fact, everything that we learn about our past, we learn about it because we find it permanently encased in stone. If you think of the discovery of Göbekli Tepe, which has, the ancient site that has made us realize that the human species is thousands of years older than we thought, it wouldn't be there if we didn't have the stone holding the records. So they had some obsidian there. They found some obsidian bracelets that were dated back, 11,000 BC or something like that. And if you just like think of all the things that we know about our past, we know it because of stone. And stone holds the records. They hold the memory of what has happened to us. So they're really good at triggering or activating like latent memories inside of us too. And I just talked about, having a feeling like what we could call a past life remembrance or a multidimensional soul experience of being of connected to crystals. But how do we activate those experiences? How do we remember those things? And crystals play a big part in those activations of memory too.
Yes, and in fact, I have a habit of touching big stones, and I'm wishing that they will talk back to me and they will give me a quick glance of their history. And we know the stone is a hard medium. That's why encapsulates the history over a millennium. And in fact, I'm writing a story these days about the perishable mediums like papyrus or any type of paper. And I'm not talking about stone, but I'm talking about human skin and how the memories are going to be embossed into human skin as new generations are coming along. So it's another way of keeping the history of humanity.
Wow. So you've been immersed in record keeping and memory and all of the containers for that.
I studied water. I wrote about water, and I came across a lot of research that talks about the memory of water. And of course, it's just to me at least, it's common sense to understand that crystals have the same capacity of holding information.
Yeah, we've been talking about the past. We didn't even really talk about the future and the way that the crystal chip is the way that we're communicating right now. And the data storage inside a piece of quartz is an embarrassment to the modern hard drive.
Yes. Um, have crystals both female and male energies?
Well, honestly, I believe that every single thing on this earth is a combination of feminine and masculine energy. And if you look deeply into it, any tree, any crystal, there's a dance and a play of those two energies creating life. And so all crystals are both. At the end of the day, I feel like they both hold all energies. And there are some stones that I constantly feel like there's this certain I guess you could call it gender expression or feminine or masculine energy emitting from it. In fact, the pearl is a stone that comes to me a lot, almost like a soul spirit, a soul stone kind of medicine, these encounters. And pearl always has a very feminine spirit to me, and I relate to it in a very feminine way. And it works deeply with women. It seems to come into the room when women or people who identify as women are there. So there are these ways that I'm curious about how they express in different ways too.
Interesting. And because we are talking about polarities, um, are certain crystals pushed out by other crystals, by other type of energies, or they can all coexist in the same room? Are there any rules?
Do you mean like in a room like the room I'm in right now? Or do you mean,
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
oh goodness,
Mm.
gosh, nobody's ever asked me that before. There's an old story in Chinese medicine that amethyst, which is your background, and hematite don't get along. So we would not place those two things together. And can I explain why?
Please.
Yeah. So amethyst is such a mysterious stone. It is such a woo. It is a stone that is not only is it unknown, it's unknowable. It just carries so much mystery with it. It does so much that we can't even get our minds around. It's a master and it is a lot of mystery. And it tends to work at the upper levels and bring our upper chakras up to have an experience of higher worlds of like celestial realms of coming encounter with the mystery of higher levels of consciousness. And iron and hematite are so grounding, and they can be so like getting us in our body and really feeling that foomph of being here, that I think that those ancient texts talked about they don't get along. Because if you want to really let someone kind of like launch off or experience those higher worlds with the amethyst, you don't want that counter grounding happening at the same time.
Interesting.
And Yeah, paradoxically though, the earth combines amethyst and hematite together in certain crystals, and the earth is the ultimate combination maker. So it's no hard and fast rule, but that's an example of something that you might want to watch. Like, do these two things really go together right now?
Yes, interesting. And also, amethyst is one of the most common crystals I see when I walk into a crystal shop. So is amethyst so easily found on Earth, or people just go to different places and get only amethyst?
People, I feel like humans love purple. Inside purple is the promise of the alignment of destiny. It's the promise of, finding our destiny and actualizing our destiny. And inside purple is also the promise of those higher worlds. If you think of the color energetics of the crown and moving up, inside purple, it's like we get inspired around purple, like that we can be better, that we can evolve, that we can be more. And I feel like that's why humanity is drawn to amethyst so much, is the color and our connection with the color purple. And amethyst is pretty plentiful, but real amethyst that's not been baked, heat treated, irradiated is getting more and more rare, actually. So, I mean, we're finding less of it now.
So the big pieces which we encounter in the crystal shops, the ones which are standing, they are kind of a small cave, maybe 50, not 50, let's say 20 inches high. Are they not real, or are they not the real thing? Do we have to activate them in any way?
You know, what happens a lot of times is they get these crystals and they put them on these big conveyor belts, like almost right when they're coming out of the mine, and they zap them with irradiation and color treatments, or heat them up, or bake them in some way to enhance the color.
Mhm.
And it doesn't happen every time. It's not like every time you see an amethyst that's happened to it. But when that happens, it does affect the stone. And the stone has these subtle qualitative energies. It's a living thing. And when we do that, it does affect the stone. And sometimes it can affect what level that stone is able to heal us on, what level we're able to interact with it on. And it can actually kind of like zap its energy in a way that is, you could call it, harmful to the stone. And we definitely don't want to take elixirs of stones that have been irradiated, because those radiations can be trapped inside the stone. And then if we put that in our body, that can affect us at the level of the DNA. So the answer at the end of the day about that is always ask if you're purchasing something like amethyst or citrine or jade, these stones that are really commonly treated. Always ask, is this real? Is this natural? Has this been through any treatments? And just so it doesn't mean you can't purchase it or work with it if it is. And then see how that seller relates to that question. If they know a lot about it and they can answer it with a lot of data, that's great. If they just kind of break eye contact with you and say, oh, sure, it's real, then it's probably not. And I always watch the eye contact, like if I lose eye contact with them or if they'll keep eye contact.
Yeah, I knew I'm going to learn a lot from our interview. And as you mentioned about the elixirs, this is like food. So the spiritual food will be contaminated. So we won't get the same benefit from it.
Yeah, and it can actually even be harmful. I mean, ingesting stones with irradiation, with treatments, even stones with too many heavy metals in them can age us. I mean, they can make us look 10 years older. They can make us sick. We can get heavy metal poisoning deep inside the body. So elixirs are so profound for those cellular activations, but you have to know how to make them. And so I do share a course exactly on that, just how to make them safely, just so y'all know there's a resource for that. I wouldn't recommend making any stone elixirs without having a good knowledge base under your belt about that.
Yes, we'll talk about your course, which is coming up in February. We'll talk a little bit later. And I mentioned that you are creating elixirs with crystals. And can you share with us, please, what type of crystals do you use for healing?
Well, I recommend, say you have a special stone, say there, like, this stone comes to you, maybe someone gives it to you, maybe you find it in a shop, but you feel this connection with it and you almost don't even want to put it down. You have this, like, oh, I just love the stone. This is special. Sometimes you'll even feel glued to it. When you feel that resonance, that's a good time to consider making an elixir of that stone, so that you can open the records of the stone inside of you and have an external alchemy experience internally and have a cellular connection with that stone. And stones go into the DNA. So I always say, instead of like thinking about, well, malachite is a good one or sulfur is a good one, really the good one is the one that is like coming to you and you feel so attracted to it. And to make that elixir is like kind of finding out why, what's going on, why am I so attracted? You get to open it up inside of you. And so it kind of becomes your own personal story instead of something from the outside.
Do you use crystals in your ceremonies as well?
Yes, I use crystals for healing. I've done over 10,000 stone and crystal healing treatments, and they continue with acupuncture and stones and crystals. So I have extensive experience putting stones on the body and watching what happens with people. And yes, we use stones in ceremony all the time, whether we're doing a land healing ceremony or a ceremony of people coming together to do breath work or meditation. One example of that is I always make sure there's a central stone on the altar that has a purpose for drawing a lot of light into the space, to bringing those high energies into the space, because there's a lot of extra dimensional beings, spiritual guides and allies. There's millions and billions of realities, and when those realities and those worlds and those benevolent forces and those energies, they want to make it into our reality, they'll use a stone to come into our reality. A stone is a gateway for those frequencies and beings into this reality. That's where you'll always find stones, is at the intersection of this reality and another. That's where they go. That's how we use them. You can see crystals in modern healing technologies, crystals in modern digital technologies. They're always the ones right at the interface with this world and another world. And so we always make sure there's something there, because when those frequencies want to come in and those encodements want to come in, we want to give them a place to land.
And I have to ask something personal. I mean, before choosing a crystal for healing for a specific client, do you ask your, let's say, spiritual guides or the entities around you what type of stone should you use, or is just a hint and the guess?
It is, so I don't have to consciously have a process where I say, okay, what stone do I use? Because I'll tell you why. Just having a room full of crystals and having a knowing that you are a crystal healer, even if you have 5 crystals, right? And you have this person there, just setting that up is the question. I mean, just setting that up is the ask. And then when you're spending time with the person, being present with them, the crystals will just pop into my heart and mind and my knowing. And I just work very intuitively on how to place them on the body. That doesn't mean that I don't have a lot of knowledge about how to place them on the body, but we learn different systems and strategies and formulas and why chemical composition would have you put it here, or why color would have you put it here, or why specific gravity or density would have you put it here, or affinity, meaning this crystal tends to enter the lung meridian or the kidney. And so having a knowledge base is what my whole life's been about. But it's interesting because when we then walk into the treatment room and we walk into the ceremony or the ritual of treatment or ceremony, all of that knowledge just comes out of the brain, filters all the way through the body, and intuitively you're just moving and working.
Beautiful. And
Yeah.
which one has more potency, the crystal ball, or just having the crystals, or being in the field of the resonance of the crystal ball, or having the crystals placed on one's body?
I place the crystals right on the body a lot more. Crystal bowls are profound, and you can mix those two modalities, the sound and the crystals, right on the body. In fact, that's beautiful to mix them both. I tend to put crystals right on the body because I'm an acupuncturist and I know the meridian system, and I'm really comfortable with the body and the energetics of the body. I'm always putting crystals on the body. Whichever one is more potent depends on the person who's sharing it. If you have a high resonance with crystal bowls, that will be more potent. If you have a high resonance with putting them on the body, that will be more potent.
Interesting. I have a dear friend who uses radionics, and what she does is she has two different type of crystals, and one is the quartz, the crystal quartz crystal, and she transfers the information from, let's say, the amethyst or ruby, whatever, to the quartz, and then the quartz is immersed in water, and then she uses that through radionics. Is that also an efficient process?
That's not only efficient, that is an ancient process that for hundreds or thousands of years we have been doing. In Taoist medicine, we call it a quartz capture. And it's where we ask the quartz to kind of record the information of another crystal or a tree or a star. And there's a process for getting that information into that quartz. And then you can use the quartz to make the elixir. It truly takes on the essence or the true principle of the other being. That's what quartz really does. That's like its sweet spot. And so it takes that on, and then you can use that quartz to make an elixir safely. And there's so many different applications for quartz captures. In fact, say you have one piece of cinnabar and you only have one piece, but you want to make a cinnabar crystal grid with 8 pieces of cinnabar, or you want to be able to place 5 pieces of cinnabar on this person's body. You can multiply your one piece of cinnabar by using 8 different quartz, pointing it right at the cinnabar. Overnight, you just let that transmission happen. Quartz knows exactly what it is supposed to do. So you let that transmission happen. And in the morning, those 8 pieces of quartz are actually cinnabar. They just look like quartz, but they've recorded the essential signature of cinnabar. So now you have like 8 cinnabar.
And in that process, when we pick up the quartz crystals, is our energy going to influence what was the information which was encoded in the quartz, or they don't care?
In ancient alchemy, like in true ancient alchemy, the secret was, and the truth of it was, that the practitioner or the magician is always affecting the stones. They're always affecting the experiment. And now in quantum physics, we have proven that the observer always affects the experiment. And so in true alchemy, it is like that. You're always turning the volume of something up or turning the volume of something down by how you feel, who you are, how much you believe in it, how happy you are while you're doing it. Have you ever noticed that I just cooked for people last weekend? And when I was cooking, I was so into it because I was excited about what I was cooking. And I was like, this is exciting. And I felt good about it. And I was happy the whole time I was doing it. And I brought it to this party. And I noticed that people were, like hiding it away and stealing Tupperwares of it for themselves so they could take it home. And some people had taken some and pushed it to the back of the fridge so they could keep it. And I was like, and then everybody texted me and was like, I want that recipe. I want that recipe. Can you bring it next time? And I was like so popular, and I was like, I know that went over so well because I was so into it. It was like my love was there, and that's really the heart of alchemy.
Yeah, so next time you have to cry over that dish so you see if the reaction is the opposite.
I know, I could do an experiment.
Yes, and I know that the observer or the person interacting with the medium has to have a specific quality, a specific vibration in order not to negatively influence the experiment. Yes, in the same with water, and it was proven many times that that's the case.
Yeah, it's so funny. But like people will say to me, well, what is the best stone for this? Or what is the best stone for this? And I'll say, it's truly the one that you love the most. It's the one that you feel resonant with. It's the one that when you pick it up, you just smile because you love working with that one. And my students will say, oh my God, stop saying that same answer over and over. That's not the answer, but it truly is the answer,
I mean, they are all so beautiful. It's very hard to select. It's very hard to, maybe you think that you resonate with every single one of them. And then your house is full of crystals and your bank account is empty. That's the the result of that.
Yeah, we have a club of everybody who shops for crystals too much and has too many crystals, and we all laugh and smile in the club. So you're not alone if that's you out there.
Yeah, thank you. So, Sarah, is there a standard process to clear and re-energize crystals? I mean, and also there is a time period, like after a month or 2 months, we have to clean and re-energize the crystals we wear.
It's a great question. Let's take cleaning and energizing and separate those two for a moment. So, because there are two different things: to clear the crystals, to get any energy that's no longer going to be useful, removed from the crystal and back to the pure energy field. So transmuted back to the heart of the earth. There's a there's a scalar energy field at the heart of the earth, so it can transmute it back to the pure oneness. And then the process of energizing a crystal or charging a crystal is almost like getting a crystal ready for the big game. It's like, let's get your energy up. Let's make sure you feel really full and nourished for this big game. So there are two different things, but now that I've brought them apart, I want to simplify it and bring them back together, because there is a way that you can clear and recharge any stone. And to keep it simple, the best way to clear and recharge any stone that I have found over this time is to actually place it on the earth. And we do special things where we might build a little altar at the earth there, or we might build a little like circle that we place it inside of. And we talk about that as we study together. But if you place it on the earth and then you talk to the earth, who is a living being, and say, will you help me kind of clear and then also recharge these stones? Because the earth is not just a three-dimensional being, but a multi-dimensional being, I like to talk to her fifth dimensional aspect, because it's so pure love and pure oneness, and say, would you clear the stone of anything that is no longer needed? And so she understands that what is no longer needed in a way that I'll never understand. And will you charge this crystal up with frequencies that will be needed? And she understands that in a way that I'll never understand, because she's, time and space are gone. She's in the now. And so when I work with her to do it, it's like, that's one of the big ways that miracles happen, that special energies come into the stone. An encodement can come into the stone that is meant for somebody who I'm going to put it in their hands 3 weeks from now. And it's exactly what they needed. So working with that higher dimensional aspect of the earth, and you place them out there overnight and just say that quick prayer. Will you clear this of anything no longer needed? Will you add anything that will be needed? And leave it overnight and let her do that alchemy for you. And it's also not only a great way to clear and recharge crystals, it's just also a great way to have a relationship with the earth and have some time with her and talk to her and see what she brings to you.
Nice. Yes, I never heard about this type of approach. I mean, what we used to do is to, put bracelets in warm water with Himalayan salt, and then charge them at the outside in the sun, pretty much, like common process. But earthing them is much more potent, I assume.
Do you mind if I speak to that really quickly?
Please.
Stones are so different, and it can become very complex what they love to actually clear and what they love to recharge. And if you take a freshwater pearl or a freshwater opal, for example, they're so vulnerable and they love this fresh water. And if you take them and put them in salt water, it's this whole different experience for them, and it feels very abrasive to them, and it's almost like they don't have the skin to even feel that kind of almost like releasing, clearing, like scrubbing energy that comes from salt. So it depends on the crystal. And I always tell people to just think about where that crystal originated from. What is its place of emergence? And if you can take it back to its place of emergence, that's where it will be cleared and recharged.
Interesting. Yes, good to know.
That's an easy way to kind of think about, what would this crystal really like?
Good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah, we are aware that the Earth has ley lines. Are crystals found more often along these energy lines, or not? It's just, it's what Earth has in store or in place just to um, balance herself.
Well, crystals, as you can see in modern life and technology, we use crystals and metals and minerals to conduct energy. It's another one of their huge talents, is that they conduct energy, and they do it in all different kinds of ways. You think of superconductors, that there are superconductors that conduct energy with no resistance at all. There are stones that conduct energies really well, like copper. And because they're such great conductors, it's energy, spiritual energy, energy like ley line. There's so many different types of ley lines or different energy pathways that can run in the earth. They're going to kind of like go and move into these veins of crystals because they can be conducted. So they'll move into these silica veins and these crystal veins in the earth that are running, granite veins, veins that have quartz in them. And that way they get conducted really well. Like it's kind of like getting on a slide. It's like, here I am, an energy line, and now these crystals are over there, and I want to get on this slide. So that energy line will kind of move towards those crystals and ride that slide. And people talk about telluric energy currents, which are kind of magnetic energy lines in the earth. And those love to go towards magnetic stones like iron or hematite, anything that's holding kind of magnetic energy in the earth, like pyrite. So yeah, they do kind of like flow towards crystals.
Yes. I mean, if you look at the variety of crystals there are out there in the world, it's just unbelievable what nature has created. And I think several years ago, an underground cave was found in Mexico. It was immersed in water, and the size of the crystals there were just unbelievable. And the good part is that they realized that exposed to air, they will decay. So they let the water coming back, come back, and they are protected at least.
That's good. Good job, humanity, on that one. Are you talking about the giant selenite
Yes,
crystals that
yeah.
are so large? Yes. Those are like, if anybody hasn't seen them, they're the size of several human beings long.
Yes, and I think the lady who discovered them even wrote a book about them. So quite a unique experience.
It really is amazing to see that the earth creates the stones, and the earth herself is a crystal healer. She will put stones in places of the earth that need support. Like near volcanoes, she'll put certain stones that can, because it's so hot there, she'll put alkaline stones that can cool off that area to balance that. And not only will she be an earth healer, I mean, a crystal healer for herself, she's also a crystal healer for collective or humanity. And if there's a place where the people in that area are struggling in some way, she may offer a gift of crystals up from the earth to support them. So she is a crystal healer herself.
Yes. Sarah, as a healer and as someone who works with crystals and is sensitive to their energies and to the energy of Earth, how do you find the world moving right now in terms of energy? Do you say that the positive is going to be more potent than the negative? There are any pockets that are, more positive than others? What's your feel?
There is not very many certainties in this world, but I do know one. There is one certainty, and it is absolutely imminent. And I 100% believe that we are moving towards a golden age. There is nothing that will stop a peaceful golden age emerging on this earth. And the question is, like, what does it look like getting there? And I think where we are right now, we are experiencing heightened polarity, just incredibly heightened polarity. And it's hard, but the thing about heightened polarity is that it creates oneness. It's like the more strong the polarity gets, the more it just goes bump and it bumps up to oneness. So we need that heightened polarity to move into this golden age. The next 2 to 3 years are going to be really big: 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026. And it'll start to kind of shift and slow down a little bit in 2027. But we are at the tail end of an incredible purification that is going on here, as we kind of like get ready to gear up into that golden age. It's really interesting. Another thing that's just imminent right now. Okay, imminent right now is, this one's actually changeable, but it's so solid right now, is that the way that we are evolving and what is happening is that we're moving into a technological age. I mean, there's nothing stopping the exponential rise of technology. I think the question is, will we be able to bring that technology into what I call golden age technology that is back in harmony and resonance with life and it is so not in harmony and resonance with life. That's why I build the pyramids. I stand for the fact that we can incorporate a golden age technology. It's not too late for that.
Yes, and you brought up a couple of interesting subjects here. So I was talking to a previous guest about, transhumanism and the impact of technology in our daily lives. And he said that there are two types of people. Those who will embrace technology completely, they will just want to wear it within their bodies, and it's their decision. And those who will just not totally disregard it, but they will use it just enough to go by. Now the question is this the second category of people will be allowed to choose the level of usage of technology, or is going to be mandatory as other things we saw were mandatory in the last 3 years? So this is the big question. And last week I launched a book of poems written by ChatGPT, which is an artificial intelligence. I did my part into it. I mean, I made changes, I came up with the subjects, I put everything together, the design, the formatting. So that was my input. But I have to say that ChatGPT was a co-author, and I put it right on the cover. And I'm not ashamed about it because I write, I have my own style, I publish books. It was just an experiment and could be a very benign experiment moving forward. And again, my question was, as long as, and my statement, as long as something like ChatGPT stays within certain boundaries, I don't think we should reject it. We can use it. But again, it's a double-edged sword, which someone can take that technology and use it for nefarious reasons.
Yeah, I think ChatGPT is a great example of this. It's like this moment for us all to remember what the Gnostics said a long time ago, what the Egyptians said a long time ago, that this force that's coming, this technological force that the Gnostics called the archons, it can only simulate, replicate, or duplicate what the human heart and human creative process is doing. It can only simulate, replicate, or duplicate. So we see this thing writing all these things, and we just have to remember it's just duplicating us. It's just simulating us. It's just replicating us. I don't think that it will actually ever get to a place where it like co-ops the human heart or is able to be as powerful as the human heart. I think it'll just like run side by side like that.
Yeah, is that human experience? I think that the feeling through the heart, through the love, through the gratitude that makes the difference in the end. And yeah, I don't know if we can, or if we can replicate that. I mean, I don't want that to be replicated, honestly. It's something unique to us. So yes, we can use the help of AI, even if a lot of people will suffer, they will lose their jobs, or they will be replaced. But I don't know. It's a very contentious subject.
Sure. I mean, it's definitely going to change the landscape of the world. And I'm going to make a prediction that it is never going to be able to go beyond just replicating, duplicating, and simulating the organic experience. Let's see what happens.
Yes, I concur that this won't happen. I mean, it will stay at that level. But again, is those behind the AI which will try to impose it at a level that is not acceptable to some of us. That's, to me, that's the end of the story and where I draw the line.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of still nefarious, malevolent forces out there as the polarity is growing.
And you also mentioned the pyramids, and I recently purchased a kit from you, and I want to build my own pyramid. I did it several years ago using bamboo and clay. It wasn't a pretty sight, and it was too big for the space I had. This one is much more elegant, and it's an old, subject and shape that can help us increase our level of consciousness and awareness. And maybe you want to refresh our mind a little bit.
I'm obsessed with pyramids. I love them. I mean, if you just look at the shape of a triangle, my Taoist teacher says that any culture that builds pyramids is on the path to awakening. Any culture that, any person that builds pyramids, anybody that builds pyramids, you can tell that they are consciously evolving, because you have this base, this horizontal plane, and we're like, all right, we're going up to the point of oneness. So any culture that builds them is that, it's a sign of conscious evolution. And at the center of any shape, there is a singularity. There is like kind of an option to go back to the field of all possibility. And so shapes are profound. I feel like that's how also geometry and shapes are how that multidimensional energy makes it into this world. And we talked about how crystals are also how that energy makes it into this world. And there's a relationship there, you know, that structure, that geometry, the archetypal geometry behind the crystal is connected to geometry and shape and form, and how energy makes it into this world.
Yes, yes, I can't wait to have it installed and start meditating inside it.
I love that you tried. I love that you did bamboo and clay. So yeah, send me a picture or something when you get it up.
Yes. Do you build medicine wheels with or a medicine wheel with crystals, or you don't do it in general?
Well, I do not build very much the classic medicine wheel, although I have built kind of like a general medicine wheel at certain sacred sites and mountains, a small one. What I am more building is land grids that may do at the boundaries of a property or a land consciousness, or at the four directions of a property or a land consciousness. We also build small devices, like whether it's a small thing out in the yard, like a certain altar, like one stone with a certain shape around it, or a full circle of stones that we would do something in. And then we also bring that whole practice inside and use all the laws of resonance that we were working with outside to create smaller crystal grids, or small, you know, witnesses of land, or small like pictures of a person so that we can work from a distance. So we work with those archetypes to do it like outside on a big level, or even just right inside on your altar. Or if you're a practitioner, you can build a small grid that helps someone that you're working with. So it's awesome. It's one of my favorite applications of stone medicine is this application. We call it the vibrational application, which means that the stones are not going in the body like an elixir. They're not going on the body like jewelry or a treatment, but they're going to be around the body. And we call that the vibrational application. It's like building grids or structures around us.
Interesting. Yes, I hope in spring I'll be able to connect with an elder here in Ontario, and he will teach me how to build a medicine wheel, because he learned it from an indigenous person for 20 years. They worked together, so he has that knowledge, and I wish he can pass it on to me, a portion of his wisdom at least.
I think you would be a good steward of it.
Thank you.
I do.
Let's talk about the crystal course coming up in February. If you can expand on that, please.
Sure. We do at the school that I have been running for since 2013 or so is called the Upper Clarity School of Stone Medicine. And we do a actual full certification course in stone medicine and crystal healing. And it's live and online. So you're kind of talking to me and I'm there. It's not just a bunch of, you know, lectures that you're given or something. It's like a real connection. There's a lot of live classes inside of it. It lasts 9 weeks, and you actually go through 27 stones, the full materia medica according to ancient Taoist texts and beyond. And not only do you learn the stones, but I take people through a ceremonial progression where they're actually alchemically changed into a stone medicine practitioner by working with the stones on themselves. It's called Temple of Stone. Did I say that? It's called Temple of Stone. It starts in late March or early April. So we only do the full certification course once in the spring and once in the fall. So
And
this
and do the participants have to have the stones ready, purchased before the course, so they can practice, or what's the process?
You know, we do 3 stones a week. We focus on 3 stones a week. So I tell people, you know, just focus on the first 3 weeks at first and see if you can just get one of those 3 stones. So you could do the whole first 3 weeks of the course with just 3 stones total. And so I'll give you the list of stones and it'll say week 1. these are the 3 stones. So you could say, I just want to pick this one and focus on this, or you could say, let me try to get all of them. So I let it be very kind of flexible, and I teach people how to kind of choose their own adventure in the course. It's really important what you pick out.
Sarah, any other programs you like to mention or tips you can share with the audience, please?
Oh, goodness. We have a great course on clearing entities with stones and transmuting entities with stones, like how to clear people. That's called the Cosmic Dragons of the One. It's about transmutating entities. And we have a course on how to do a full soul level modality on soul level healing by only knowing 8 specific treatments. And that's called Stones for the 8 Extraordinary Meridians. And then we have this course on making stone elixirs and formulas. And if you are someone who is also an herbal medicine person, or makes salves or rubs or creations or monatomics, and you're like, I really want to be able to put these crystal elixirs in my things, or be able to ingest crystal elixirs safely, it's kind of like for the alchemist. It's the kind of course for somebody who likes to make things and experiment with things. And that's called Making Stone Elixirs and Formularies. And there are many more things, but they're all at upperclarity.com.
Yes, we'll post the website in the description of the video. Sarah, we're approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
Gosh, well, I had a nice time talking with you. I feel like we could go on and on and on with so many questions about crystals. I'm thinking about 2023 and the year ahead. And I'm about to send out, just if you want to get on my email list, I'm about to send out a little way for you to kind of tell what is maybe the best stone for you to work with in 2023, specific to you. So that's something that you could look at just coming up and be like, oh, let me make sure I know my 2023 stone.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time. It was very refreshing. I never had another guest talking so much about crystals, a specialist. So thank you very much for giving us so much information.
Thank you for creating the space for it to happen.
Thank you. And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, like it. Get a free copy of my book when you visit my website. And until next time, love and gratitude.